Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Let's close our eyes and elevate our thoughts, connecting with God and the good spirits, asking our mentors to be by our side, to prepare our house, the environment in which we are right now, and also preparing our hearts so we can receive all the teachings and the lessons that we are about to be listening to and watching tonight. Dear God, as we gather here in your name, please help us to be here fully present with heart and soul, to listen to the message and to really looking to apply all these teachings in our lives. Help us to harmonize in this group, so we can all together be in the same vibration of love and fraternity. So be it. So thank you all for being here tonight. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here with you all. For those who don't know me, my name is Andy Della Flora. I am one of the volunteers of the Light of the Soul Christian Spiritist Center. Tonight I'm talking to you all from Brazil, so just bear with me if you have any background noise. I am right now in my parents' house, really trying to prepare the environment to be here with you all. But it's always a pleasure. It's always an opportunity, learning opportunity also for the person who is giving the talk. So I thank you in advance for that. Tonight we are here to talk about the chapter 2 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. The title of this chapter is "My Kingdom is Not of This World." So to give you a context, so this chapter it is covering actually a little dialogue between Jesus and Pilates. So when Jesus was arrested and he was brought to Pilates, Pilates asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answered to that. He said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, people would have fought to prevent my falling into the hands of the Jews. But my kingdom is not here." And then Pilates was like, "So if I understand what you were saying, are you a king?" And to that, Jesus answered, "You have said it. I am a king. I was not born, nor did I come into this world except to bear witness to the truth." So this is a very interesting conversation, right? And you know how we keep repeating, when we study Spiritism, that more and more often the spirits, they tell us, and this is all over, Kardec's books, the Spiritist books, and, all the codification, that the spirits tell us that we hear, with the evolution, the spiritual evolution that we have currently, sometimes we are not prepared to understand, the vocabulary, the intelligence that we have right now. We are not prepared to understand certain concepts. And this is the perfect example, right? Because can you imagine, like, Jesus is a very, enlightened being, and therefore being, a more pure spirit. Jesus is not someone that would tell lies, right? So when Pilates misunderstanding, what Jesus said, when he asks, Are you then a king? Jesus, in his answer, he was like, well, you, in the beginning of this conversation, you asked me if I was the king of the Jews. So you said it, you were putting these words in my mouth. And Jesus is trying to explain to him what's that his kingdom is not a kingdom here on earth, but the comprehension, the intelligence that Pilates had in that point of his life wouldn't let him really comprehend what Jesus was saying. So this is a very good example for us to also think about all the times that we don't understand things, or that we misinterpret things that other people tell us nowadays. It's so common for us to be misinterpreting so many things. So anyway, this is a part of the message, how we also misinterpret things. But throughout this lesson tonight, throughout this talk, we are going to be talking a little bit more about what Jesus meant when he said that his kingdom is not of this world. So just moving along, the meaning of, his kingdom not being in this world is that Jesus was referring to the future life. So what he was trying, not only here, but, throughout his lessons, he was constantly trying to reveal to us the other world, where he reigns, where, the good spirits and, the good people with spirits that are really trying, to improve themselves, when we will all find our recompense. So in this chapter, Kardec also covers, some of the things that Jesus was saying. And it's interesting that he refers that earth doesn't belong yet to his kingdom, because love, fraternity, tolerance, and humility are not yet predominant here on earth. So it's interesting for us to pay attention to this yet, right? In this moment that we live, and we talk more and more about, our planet moving from being a planet of trials and expiations to a world of regeneration. So, we are little by little moving towards a better planet, being a better place, or maybe being part of this kingdom of Jesus. But yeah, it's something for us to reflect. Another thing that Jesus said, if we pay attention to the previous slide, he talked about bringing the truth, right? So what was this truth? This truth was all the moral laws, because if we evaluate, all the teachings that Jesus brought to us, he was basically like teaching us all the things that we would need to work in, that we would have to work inside of ourselves to be able to enter his kingdom, right? Does anyone want to say? Hello, Maria Luisa.
Hello, can I go to the Portuguese group, please?
Sure thing. Rafael is going to put you in that room.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyway, the main message of this chapter is for us to think about, all the messages that Jesus provided us throughout, his lessons of how we would be better souls, how we would be progressing as spirits, to really be practicing love, fraternity, tolerance, and humility, so one day we can be part of his kingdom. So, since we were just talking that earth is not yet part of this kingdom of Jesus, so when would that happen? When would, will Jesus' kingdom be established on earth? And so the answer that Kardec and the spirits bring to us is that this will happen when these spiritual values are above our material interests. And they also say that this kingdom of Jesus will be of peace and fraternity among men. So the vast majority of humanity, and maybe us included as well, we envision this kingdom of peace, harmony, love, but it is still difficult for us to get rid of the material context, right? When we try to imagine, think about it, when you try to imagine the spiritual world, when maybe if you were raised Catholic, if you ever thought about heaven, how have you imagined that? It's difficult for us to imagine how the spiritual world is without adding some of the materialistic things to that. And in this chapter, we are going to talk about, the difference between the material and the spiritual values. And it doesn't mean that, when we are talking about matter, when we are talking about being materialistic, this is not, something that is inherently bad. We need to understand, that everything that is in excess, becomes a bad thing. But it's this is an invitation for us to think about that. This whole chapter tonight is an invitation for us to revisit the way that we are approaching our life here on earth, in this whole spiritual versus matter things in our lives. So since Jesus is talking about his kingdom being from another world, let's talk a little bit about believing in future life. This belief in future life, since back in the days, we are not only talking about Spiritism, but, all the religions that also bring this idea of life not being only this one life, but, having something else after this. This belief changes the way that we, as humans, we approach our lives here on earth. And this has lots of consequences in the way that we have evolved as society, and the way that we have evolved. When I am thinking is what I meant is our morals, right? Because it's only with the certainty that we have a future life that we can think about making a better use of the present life that we have. So because if we look around us and we think about being charitable, when we think about becoming better people, when we think about really working inside of all the issues and all the faults that we have, our main motivation of doing that is, if you don't believe that there is something else after this life, what would be the purpose, right, of us trying to improve ourselves, trying to do the inner reformation that we talk so much. And this belief in future life also helps us to understand or accept the concepts of divine justice, right? We are going to talk a little bit about reincarnation in this class, but think about, all the things that we can see around us. And if we are only considering having one life, how so many things would seem unjust, how sometimes we see someone that is deceased in a wheelchair, for instance, a little kid. If we are only looking through the lens of this one existence, that might not be just, right? So we always need to look ahead, we need to think more, to expand our views to more than just this one existence. So the idea that I'm trying to bring to you is that this belief in future life also help us, to better understand the divine justice. And as I said, it helps us to keep working in our moral improvements. If we accept that we are responsible, that we will be held responsible by the actions that we have in here, both in relation to ourselves, but also, our actions towards other. This this is the one thing that is constantly encouraging us to be better, to improve us, or, to perform our duties, to be an instrument of God, as we so often talking here, to contribute to the well-being to others around us, not only our family, but, to do charity, to contribute to the well-being of others. And not only the well-being, since in this class we are talking about materialism versus spiritism, the spirits talk a lot about, how sometimes souls, they incarnate on earth to help us also to bring the intellectual in the material advancement, the technologies. So many spiritist books, they describe it. So interesting. I was talking to someone in the center another day, that I was reading a book from Chico Xavier. The book was written in 1940 something. In the description, they didn't call it a TV in the book, but the description of the device was almost like one of these flat screen TVs that we have nowadays. And also over the summer, we were studying the Violets on the Window book. And the Patricia's spirit, she was basically describing like almost like a Kindle device, like a reader, like a device that would make easier for you to read a book. So this is also very common, spirits, they incarnate on earth also to help us, to advance as society, to bring, intelligence and, just for us to advance in general. So with that being said, if we think that, all these material things are so bad, it's not what the spirits are telling us. Again, we are gonna discuss a little bit more about when those things could not be beneficial for our progress as spirits. So those who believe in future life, as I was mentioning, if you have faith in the future, then this existence, this very one existence that we are having right now, it becomes a simple transition. And this may also give us more patience to bear the hardships that we face in this life. And I'm sorry, I repeated one of the phrases in here, but I can give you a perfect example of that. For instance, if we take the current moment that we face as society, if we take the pandemic, how many of us, you might have missed Christmas with your extended family, or even Thanksgiving, since it's such an important holiday. Over the past year, you probably, it was your birthday. And I'm not sure if it was your case. It was definitely my case. I couldn't be with my husband. I couldn't be with my family on my birthday day. And I will not lie to you. It wasn't easy for me. It took me days of feeling, sad until, I stopped. Maybe it was my mentor. Who knows? But, a thought came in my mind. What is 1 year of this life? What is one birthday of mine compared to all the other birthdays that I will still have in this existence? And if I am a spiritist, if I believe on multiple existences, then this looks even sillier, right? Why am I here crying because I am alone in my birthday day? What is this when I compare, through this with the so many existences that I had and will still have in my life? I won't lie, it didn't make the pain go away 100%. I was still, feeling a little sad, but it helped a lot. It gives you a perspective. And I hope that if you are struggling now because you are alone, if you are away from your family, I hope that, this perspective that this is one existence with so many other existences that we will still have, that this can also help you to find some consolation and some comfort as well. And in the other hand, people that have doubts about future lives, can you really, stop? Let's all stop right now and think about this. If you don't believe if you don't believe on, future existences, if you think that this is the only life that you live, how would that be? What is your views about the future? And, so then are you directing all your thoughts to this one existence? And, are you focusing, maybe someone like this would be focusing more in possessions and, material things in the present moment. But most importantly, if you don't believe in a future life, then death would be a door to nothingness, right? And again, how so many times we see people, good people that were charitable, and when they are about to discarnate, they are suffering, they have a disease and all of that. So if you don't believe in something else, if you believe that this is the only life that you live, how would that be fair, right? Why would a person that was good, was charitable, and did only good things in this existence, why would this person be suffering, right? That would not be fair. And then another point of view is that if we don't believe in this future life, then we might be putting our happiness, thinking that our happiness is only related to the material things or things that are not inside of us. And it's not that this is bad, but this is actually sad, because someone that thinking this way will always be unhappy, because there will always be things that we will be missing, or things that we have not yet conquered. So it's a cycle, how we see in the movies, or, we probably all know someone in our life. The person is like, okay, what I need to be happy is to get a new car. And then you go, you work, and you finally buy a new car. But once you buy a new car, you don't feel the happiness. You don't feel that happy. And then you were like, okay, so what next? And okay, so maybe now I have to get a house. And, you keep going. It's a cycle. And in the same way that I am talking material things, some people are just addicted to achievements. It's very common. There are lots and lots of studies about, people in the workplace that they don't really stop and they celebrate their achievements, because what they are seeking is not the achievement. It's almost like they are addicted to the feeling of being constantly chasing something, going after, this pursuit of happiness. And this is a very important thing to focus, because why we are talking so much about material things, because we can only control what is within us, right? So we can only control how we feel, how we react to things. So if we are putting our hopes, if we are putting the hopes of happiness in material things, if we are putting our hopes of happiness in someone else, for instance, some people, they think that they will be happy if they are back together with someone that they love. Every time that you are putting these hopes in something else other than in yourself, inside of you, you are setting you up for failure, because again, you cannot control anything other than what is inside of you, right? It's that maximum that, you cannot react, you cannot control the way that people treat you, but you can control the way that you react to that. I know it's very hard, it's easier said than done, but it's truth. And throughout all the many invitations that I will have for you during this night, this is probably one of the most powerful ones, for us to reflect tonight. If we are putting our hopes of happiness in anything else other than what is inside of us, right? Does anyone want to say anything or has any questions right now? No? Okay, I will move on. So, we were just discussing a little bit about divine justice, and the whole concept of divine justice is that some of the things that happen to us in this life, hardships, or as I was mentioning, sometimes cases of physical diseases, the Spiritists, if we are all here together and we believe in reincarnation, we also believe that those things, they come from mistakes that we have done in previous existence. So those are ways for us to repent and repair what we have done in the past. So this question it's very interesting because he asks, should we then be indifferent when we are suffering just because we believe in future life? And the answer from these spirits is very, clear. They say no. Although, we must accept with resignation what does not depend on us, we should not settle for that. We should not just say, okay, I am going through this hardship because I probably, I deserve it, and that's it. And then, you will feel sad, and you will feel pity of yourself, and you are going to sit in your couch and cry. This is not the way that the spirits, Jesus and God, want us to face those things, Resignation is an important piece. It's important for us to accept, and resignation in the sense of really saying, praying to God instead of saying, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about prayer, the power of prayer, and we discussed in that lesson that instead of asking God to just remove the problems from our lives, the resignation in here comes with the sense of, help me to understand the lesson that I need to learn from this. Spiritism brings this, that if the hardships are happening in our lives, it's because we need to learn something from that. So this is the main meaning of resignation. But also the importance in here is for us to strive to make better whatever is within our reach. So it's not like because you are experiencing some issue in your life that, as I said, you are going to sit down and say, oh, okay, I probably deserved it, and that's it. No. What God needs from us is this desire to improve and to overcome our faults and our, anything that limits us, anything that prevents our spiritual growth. And that's why it's so important that we value the opportunity that we are having right now. Being here, being incarnated today, it's an amazing opportunity. If we think about how many spirits are still in the spiritual world, how many spirits are probably, in the umbral right now, and some spirits are repenting everything that they have done, and they would like, to be back in here, to be reincarnated. They would like to have this opportunity to make things right. So, it's a really important point for us to reflect what we are doing with this opportunity that we are having in here, right? If we are just avoiding, if we are just thinking, I don't like this person, I don't like this coworker, or I don't have a good relationship with so and so in my family, and therefore I'm going to avoid this person forever. The invitation is here. Is for you, if you are having the opportunity to be here, why not taking the opportunity to solve, whatever conflict you will have, right? So again, another important message that we are getting from chapter 2 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. In the same chapter of the Gospel, when Kardec again was receiving all the messages in France, he received this message from this spirit of this woman. She didn't give her name, but she described herself as a queen of France. It is like an extensive letter. I just put some, the most important and powerful parts in here. And with your permission, I would like to read it. Excuse my English. Who better than I to understand the truth of these words of our Lord? My kingdom is not of this world. When on earth, I lost myself through pride. Who then can understand the total lack of value of the earthly kingdom, if not I? What I was able to bring with me of my earthly regality? Nothing, absolutely nothing. A queen amongst men. I thought to enter heaven as a queen. What a disillusion. What a humiliation when, instead of being received as a sovereign, I saw above me, a long way above me, those whom I had judged insignificant and whom I had despised because they were not of noble blood. In order to win a place in this kingdom, it is necessary to show abnegation, humility, benevolence, and charity in its most celestial forms. They do not ask who you are, nor what position you occupied. Instead, they ask, what good have you done? How many tears have you dried? Here, however, illusions disappear, and it is soon perceived as they had only been chasing shadows. Then it becomes apparent that the only really golden possessions, the only ones which can be made use of their heavenly home, the only ones which can offer the possibility of entry, have been despised. Have pity at those who have not entered into heaven. Help them with your prayers, because prayer helps mankind approach the Most High. It is what links heaven and earth. Do not forget. So, what a powerful statement, right? And I thought, this afternoon when I was studying to be here with you all tonight, I was reading some interpretations of this, and I thought it was fascinating to read an interpretation from a Spiritist center in Brazil that they were talking about us being the kings and queens of our homes. So our homes are our little kingdoms. And how many times have we acted inside of our homes as, with the here I command, way of approaching situations, or like just imposing your will, your thoughts in anyone else that lives in the same house as you. So, and in the same way, we are not only talking houses, we are talking, professional positions and any relationship that involves power, right? So how do we really behave in those cases, right? And another so important piece of this is in this final paragraph. I know, again, I keep bringing things from previous lessons, but in the lesson that we talked about prayer, we also talk about the importance of praying for these spirits that are in suffering. And here, this queen, she also brings this to us. She she tells us to have pity and mercy and to pray for those spirits who have not entered into heaven. She probably means, the spirits that are still suffering in the umbral, maybe here on earth. And she's telling, how the prayer approaches us, approaches mankind with the high spirits, with God, and how this prayer can really help the suffering spirits. So, again, I think it's important for us to keep repeating, class after class, how sometimes we underestimate, the power of praying for someone, for a loved one, not only, discarnated spirits, but, also the ones that are here incarnated. It's very, very important. But more than that, this is basically summarizing some of the parts that we saw in the letter from this queen. So the spiritual world, what really matters, the really important questions that we will be asked once we are trying to go back, when we are, trying to enter the spiritual world, the important questions that will be asked from us is, what good have you done? And she mentioned this in the letter. How many tears have you dried? And if we make a comparison with common questions that we are frequently asked here incarnated, questions could be, who are you? What is your social status? What do you do for a living? Right? And the invitation is here is that our actions will show who we are, not only in the spiritual world, but also, anytime that we are approaching a group, maybe you were just hired to a new job, people hired you. So your actions will show to the group, to this new group of people with whom you are interacting, your actions will show who you are. In Spiritism, we keep talking about how we should lead by example. We should be charitable, we should be understandable, we should love others. And so, it is very important, not only when we are talking about spiritual life, but like nowadays, it's important for us to reflect the actions that we are having right now. What are our actions telling about us, right? Are my actions letting people know that I am, a loving and kind human being? Or my actions are letting others know that I am constantly in a mood, I am constantly in a bad mood, or that I am constantly, selfish and I am an egoistic person, right? Let's all have a minute to reflect in here how we are putting ourselves out there. What is our, if you will, the personal brand that we are putting out there, and how we would like people to perceive us. And then if there is a disconnection between how you think that you are showing yourself right now and how you would like to be seen by people, this is a good exercise for us to understand, what is the path between what you are and where you want to be. It's, if you have a clear vision of where you want to be, it's easier for us all to understand what are the small steps that we need to take so we can become, this better version of ourselves. And then a little comparison between the spiritual world and the material world. The spiritual world values selflessness and humility, benevolence, charity, and love. And in the material world, again, this is, it might look a little exaggerated, maybe not everyone, but a good part of people that tend more to the material side of things, they value material goods, they value money, power, and even physical beauty. And it's important for us to understand that the logic that we are having right now as humans, again, if we are only looking to this existence, the logic that may work for us is not the same logic that God and the good spirits have, right? Kardec used an example in the gospel, a very good example. So he said, I'm going to read. He said, a man who identifies with the future life is similar to a rich man who loses a small sum without being disturbed. And he who concentrates his thoughts on earthly life is like the poor man who losing everything he has, falls into despair. So this is a very interesting logic. If you believe in, let me just repeat because maybe my reading wasn't that clear. The comparison is a man who believes in future life is like a rich man. If this rich man loses some money, he might be a little disappointed, but he knows that he is still covered. And someone who doesn't believe in the future life, he compares with a poor person. And if this person that is poor loses anything, any small piece of that, for him, that might be, a bigger loss if you compare, with the rich man. So that is it's a very interesting way of putting things into perspective for us, right? But now let's talk a little bit about material things, because after all, we are in a material world, right? If material things were to be so bad, would God put all of this or let all of this to be around us? So what I was able to find and what these spirits say is that the problem is when we abuse of things, because actually, the material things that are around us, they can be beneficial. They can help to bring, the benefits for our soul. They can help us to evolve spiritually, right? But what we have to do is always to put our spiritual evolution above the material needs that we have. And so, as I mentioned, the issue is when we abuse, not only when we abuse, because, we have the two examples. We have the examples of people who abuse too much of, material things, money, or you name it. And we also have people who are extremely attached. It's so common to see people that work very hard, are decent people. They work very hard, but they don't want to spend their money. They don't want to, have a comfort house for their family. They don't want to donate for those, who are in need. And this is important, this is what God does not condemn having a comfort, some comfort for your family. What is wrong is the excess of that. What we cannot do is to just overestimate all the material things. But if we understand that those things can help us to live a better life, being part of this existence that we have in here, being part of our spiritual evolution, And when I mean, and you might ask yourself, how would a material thing help your spiritual evolution? If your body, let's talk physical body, how are you expecting that you will be able to pray to help others that are in need if you yourself are not taking care of your own body? If you yourself is sick, how do you expect that you will be able to practice charity? How do you expect that you will be able to help others, right? The problem is the excess. The problem is the abuse. As we were talking in the previous slide, we were talking about, physical beauty, for instance. But, our physical body is a gift that God gave us, It's the vehicle for our soul in this life. And it's our duty, you name it, if it is, practicing some exercises, if it is having a more balanced diet. But how are you, this is the question for us. How are you taking care of this vehicle, of this gift that God gave you, right? Oh, I'm sorry. And, as I mentioned, it's important to practice charity. If you have means, if God is being generous with you, if you have means of helping others, why not? The issue with materialism is also when you are so attached to things, as I mentioned, the attachment, that you don't want to give away, that you don't want to, offer comfort to your family, you don't want to give some food to those who are asking on the streets. The charity is something that Jesus brought over and over, the importance of that for us. So it's also an invitation. We probably can help at least with a little bit. I don't know, and I'm not asking, what is your financial conditions, but I believe that we all can always, find a way, maybe not every month, I don't know what is your situation, but, you can always find a way. And if maybe material charity is not available to you right now, we keep talking about this, that there are other ways for you to engage in charity. Moral charity is one of the examples. So, again, I'm not sure if you have any questions, but I thought that this was very fascinating to try to understand how materialism is not, it's not something inherently bad. It's just every time that we abuse of anything as any other thing in nature or any other thing that is available to us, it's the abuse of things that make those things bad for us. And then this is also a very interesting question for us. If this belief in future life should make us indifferent for the material life. And the answer is no, because life on earth is an opportunity for us to work on our moral and spiritual progress. And this instinct of progress is in the laws of nature, leading us to search for well-being, doing the best to feel as comfortable as possible. So here again, the answer of what I was talking in the previous slide. In the same way, it's important. God wants us to be productive, to contribute in society. In the same way that we work in here, we know through so many Spiritist books that they also organize themselves in the spiritual plan as workers. They all have occupations. They all, not all spirits are forced to do it, but a good part of these spirits, they work. They have schools, they have hospitals, they have all types of jobs assisting other spirits, rescuing spirits. So, in the same way that we talk about working in the spiritual world, we should also think that our work here on earth is an important thing. We are helping others. We are fulfilling with our duty, our, role in society. Hopefully we are contributing for a better world. We are helping people. We have, it might be what we are doing, it might be, just a tiny bit, but we never know. Maybe you smiled, maybe you were just a little bit, you were kind to a client and all that the person needed was your help, right? You never know. And so now we talk a little bit about reincarnation, how, reincarnation, it's important, with this concept of thinking about future life. For Spiritism, we all know that we not only believe in future life, like a life in the spiritual plane, but we also believe in reincarnation. And this cycle is interesting because it's a cycle that we keep repeating. So we reincarnate, we have our time here on earth, and then we discarnate, we go back to the spiritual world. We either work or then we prepare to be back, to reincarnate and be back on earth. And this is a cycle that repeats over and over until we will reach illumination. And so reincarnation shows that all things are interconnected. All the existence of one being and all the beings of the same world, and then all beings of all worlds. So if we consider all of this, that we are all interconnected, this is the basis of universal fraternity. And this is only established through reincarnation. Because can you think how, every time that you reincarnate, you are not only in touch with spirits that you met from a previous life, but you keep meeting more and more spirits. And then if you go back to the spiritual world and you are working over there as a worker, you may help other spirits. So, you are touching it all. It's the law of fraternity and solidarity. And again, as I talked a little bit about this already in the beginning of this talk, but reincarnation brings this idea of not having a narrow vision, believing in future life, is looking further than just this one existence. Every time that we are facing something, trying to extend our visions and not only trying to find reasoning for everything that is going on, as if you would only experience this one existence. And then, as I mentioned, why fraternity? Also because it's through reincarnation that we will be able to repair also our mistakes. So if we did something wrong to a brother or a sister, it's one of the laws of reincarnation that we come back together to live as brothers and sisters. A couple of slides ago, I made the invitation when I was talking about taking a moment to reflect if we are really using the time of this incarnation to, to try to befriend with that one coworker that you really don't find, that many affinity, or with that person like a brother, sister, sometimes it's a mom or a dad that you keep having arguments. So this is the law of reincarnation and fraternity, that, we keep reincarnating with spirits with whom we have things to repair. And also Jesus teaches, Jesus and the Spiritism, they both bring to us that we learn and understand that reincarnations are experiences that allow us to progress towards our spiritual evolution. So as I am approaching the end of this talk, I just want to recap, because I feel that throughout this night, we talked about so many things, we're touching so many important topics. So let's recap. It's important for us to work for our intellectual and also our moral improvement. We need to evolve through the action of our effort and will. So, hopefully one day we will become, enlightened spirits. And it's also another message from tonight's lesson that we should be seeking recognition from God and not from man. So, every time that we are evaluating our actions, our ways of behaving, and trying to make a decision, this would be a good parameter to think about if your action would be pleasing God or other men. So anyway, before we start the passes, I can open to questions, and I'm trying to open the chat in here for you all. But yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. No questions? Deborah sent me a question in here. She was asking, what do I mean about all beings of all worlds? So Deborah, you are probably familiar in Spiritism. We also believe of plurality of worlds. And usually we start incarnating in more in less evolved worlds, and as you progress, you start incarnating in other, better, more evolved worlds. So when we are talking solidarity, is in this sense that we have touched so many beings of so many worlds. And when I am talking beings, for instance, animals, they also have souls. Their souls, anything that is alive in nature, they are also, creation of God. So they are also beings just like us. They might not be in the same level of spiritual evolution that we are nowadays, but we are also interconnected as beings, and as creations of God as well. So if you guys don't have any questions, I just want to give you a moment so you can grab a water and we can prepare for the passes as well.
Place by your side a container with clean water to be blessed and magnetized. Dear brothers and sisters, no matter where you are in this moment, what difficulties you're facing, Jesus is always ready to come to our help. Place yourself now in a comfortable position, one that facilitates concentration and receptivity. Breathe slowly and calmly. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Fill your lungs with air and release slowly. Let the energy of tranquility and peace penetrate your lungs and circulate throughout your body. Your soul, in harmony with your body, feels peaceful and at peace. Let us think now about the passage of Jesus among us. In a beautiful and clear day, the golden rays of the sun illuminating the joyful landscape. Multicolored flowers, bouncing, chirping birds fill the landscape with optimism. The news of the cures brought a crowd of needy people around Jesus. Suddenly, Jesus appears, calm and serene. His white tunic is light and long all the way up to his feet. At the sunset, all those who were sick and affected by different diseases were brought to him, and Jesus, laying his hand on each one, healed them, as narrated in the Gospel of Luke. Let's mentalize now Jesus approaching us in this moment, placing his friendly hands on top of your head. Feel the presence of this Divine Master right with you, feeling like a waterfall of pure and crystalline waters start to fall from His hands, coming from His love to bathe you, falling on your head, streaming down your shoulders, bathing your whole entire being, bringing you peace, serenity, and balance, cleaning all impurities and pacifying yourself. Feel these waters bathing you, cleansing, and purifying. Breathe. Now think of Jesus as a sun right before you, His light, His warmth, embracing you, enveloping you. Feel the healing emerging, emanating from Christ towards you. He hears your prayers. Trust Him. His love is infinite. He is always by your side, protecting, offering everything you need. Trust Him. Feel and absorb all these magnificent healing energies coming from Jesus in this moment. His light surrounds and embraces you. Feel these energies running throughout your body. Feel yourself re-energized, strengthened, and at peace. Dear Lord Jesus, our divine friend, extend your generous hands, Lord, and transform these waters into remedies for our physical and spiritual ailments. Hold us, Jesus, in your peace. Extend your vibrations of love for the benefit of my home, dear Lord. May peace, health, tranquility reign here with my family. We give thanks to you, Jesus, and pray that you stay with us today and always. Thank you, God.